Welcome back to Behind the Vel, where we dive deep into Superval ammunition, our personal lives, our business lives, anything and everything that we have going on. Today we're going to do another Q&A, joined by Taylor. What's going on, Taylor?
Hey,
Getting
set up still. We got different mics, so I'm just trying to figure it out.
Yeah, today's a little bit of a hectic mess of a day, which is good because we want you guys to see the reality and truth of Superval and what goes on behind the scenes. It's not always pretty. What's new? Anything new and exciting? What's new on marketing? Didn't we just sign one of the best TAC Games athletes ever?
You're right. Yeah. 3-time national champion.
The only champion, right?
No, I don't think so.
Has he lost to nationals?
Well, his first one, he competed
How many nationals have they had?
I don't know, but the first one,
okay.
I think think second. When I was talking to him, he was telling me. But
all right,
yeah,
Jacob. So Jacob Hepner,
yeah.
welcome to Team Superval. Sign another athlete. I was joking in I get in the team chat a little bit. We have a chat with all the athletes. I like to know what's going on, even though I don't compete as much. I'm not much of an athlete anymore. But we're dominating all podiums in all the sports. We got most of the top shooters in most of the top divisions. Now in most of the sports, with the exception of probably IDPA or something. But for those of you who don't know who Jacob is, I think his socials, Hepner Training.
Yeah, Hepner.training.
Go give him a follow. He shoots Atlas. We have a little bit of a connection. I was team captain for Atlas for a number of years, no longer sponsored by anyone but myself. And he shoots for Atlas Gunworks, so that's cool. I think he shoots the Erebus, competes with the Erebus. He shoots for JP Rifles. He'd be someone we'd like to, once we get settled in a new location, get on the podcast. Super cool dude, top TAC Games athlete, does a lot of instructional training, for people getting into TAC Games. He gives out a lot of great information on becoming a better athlete. I think he used to compete in CrossFit Games style stuff.
Yep.
So if you're interested in TAC Games, it's fitness and firearm shooting. And Jacobs typically wins everything he competes in nationals, and now he shoots for Superval. So, welcome, Jacob.
Yeah.
Anything else I'm missing on marketing side, or?
So one thing about Jacob too is I think what turned him onto the Superval side was our 77 grain OTM. So we talked about that in a previous episode, but one of the big things that got his attention with our
Andy
brand.
In the previous episode,
I know, why'd you do that? And I was back there cringing, and I'm like, oh gosh.
Because I knew there was something in the works, and I didn't want to say his name, and then people think, oh, they're going to sponsor this guy.
Yeah.
Try to keep it secret until we closed a deal.
Until we reveal.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he, a lot of people actually lately have been reaching out on our 77 grain OTM because it's been performing really well. People are testing it across the market space with other brands, similar load, not same, but similar load.
Well,
it's way outstanding. So,
yeah, he had done, if you go on his social, he had posted some group shots showing our standard deviations, our groups, and we're the best. And I think I said that when I talked about that. If it's not the best, tell me, because I want to know and I want to make it the best, and we want to make it right. So we're happy to have him in TAC Games. Accuracy is a huge deal for their sport. It's a little bit different than USPSA, IPSC, 3-gun and stuff. They have to do a lot of physical feat stuff, and then they're doing a lot of, I won't say static, but different barricade. You're out of breath. You got to stabilize, shoot tight groups at distance, varying distances and stuff. So a load like that, where in USPSA in multi-gun stuff, you're going to need that load on swinger and far steel, swingers and stuff, and far gongs. But most of the time, you're going to run a 55 grain. But for them, most of their rifle shooting is it's all paper scored group shooting. So it's a big deal to have the best, most accurate 2D3 5.56 combo, which the 77 grain OTM is. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, that's the biggest thing in marketing is adding Jacob. And we had some cool videos drop. I'm working on one now with Carry Trainer Mickey. He made an awesome video on YouTube. So we're going to get that on Instagram for you guys.
Yeah, shout out to Mickey. If you guys go on YouTube, if you're on YouTube watching this, head over to Carry Trainer's channel. Mickey does a lot of great educational long form content. Doesn't always land on social as much because it's I mean, they're longer videos, like detailed instructional. It's stuff that back in the day, like you would pay money for an instructor to tell you this stuff, and he's putting it on YouTube. And that's awesome because it's free game right there.
Yeah. And I like watching his videos. One, it's informational. Two, I'm not the most experienced shooter, but it's put in a way where I can understand easily. And
he puts stuff in
relatable.
Good layman terms, relatable with great. He does good job with analogies.
Yeah.
Which is a lot of instructors don't. They think everything's like military. You got to say it. Be all. No, Mickey does a great job on educating civilians and wording it in a way that most people are going to understand. So
yeah,
he's a good dude, good instructor. He's been with us for like
before
9 years, 8, 9, 10, something, quite a few years. He's been with us for a very, very long time.
All right. Well, that's pretty much marketing. What about you on the business side? What's fresh?
Well, first thing that's fresh is this bald head. So
we haven't seen the baldness before.
I've been so stressed I forgot my hat, which is not. So growing up, by the way, I started balding at 20, as soon as I married you, I think.
Don't blame me.
In my early 20s.
It's genetics, bro.
Yeah. So my dad was bald my whole life. I don't know how much of his, but he used to always say, the Lord only made a few perfect heads, and the rest he gave hair. And I live by that motto. Because I'm bald, I might go, I'm not 100%. It'll grow in some areas, and it looks very weak. Like you either go full bald or full head of hair, and I'm not getting a transplant. I would rather get permanent hair removal everywhere so I don't have to bick it every single day. But yeah, hopefully these lights don't blind the camera too much off my head. But I'm bald. Sorry, everybody.
Maybe there's people that like your bald head. Like,
I do have
this
a
video
very
might
nice
get
shaped
more
heads.
views.
I do have, I'm just like diving deep to the bald community.
Committing.
I have some dents, though. I have a baseball bat where I got hit across the back of the head with a bat. There's a big dent in the back of my head. But
well, we can't see the back, so don't tell us.
The other side is beautiful. I have a bunch of scars and crap, but you won't see those on camera. We'll edit that out and post. No, what's going on with me business-wise, so this is kind of an update. It's been a bit of a shit show lately. We, since we talked last a week ago, we're supposed to be moving into our new facility starting July. We're supposed to get keys July 1st. And those bad words on, what was it, Tuesday or Wednesday, like a week before we get keys, they say, hey, we've got to push you a month. You can't have keys till August 1st. For me, who spent the last, I don't know how many months planning, coordinating, dealing with the federal government, with permitting, with licensing, we've got a bunch of new machinery coming for the new facility for all the new growth that we're doing. Yeah, I've spent the last 2 days now in a nightmare shitstorm trying to fix all that, push it all off until August. So those of you who are local, we're excited about our new retail store we're going to have. Sorry, don't show up until until August, and there will be an announcement. We're bringing on a bunch of new vendors for the retail space, and that's on you to coordinate all that. Luckily, I don't deal with all that space, but basically that pushed a lot of stuff for me back. I will say when I get in the zone, I don't like being told no in business. I don't do well with it. You know I don't do well with being told no at all. So now I'm trying to redirect because I have everything done. Now I'm just pushing it. So now I've got a month to fill with stuff. It's the middle of the summer. We pushed all our vacations. I pushed my knee surgery. We pushed everything based on this move. And now I've got a month gap, and now it's pushing everything into the fall. So in a planning sense, as a business owner, like that can really, 1 month can derail a lot of stuff. And it'll derail some stuff for you as customers, because now stuff coming to you will be a month later than we planned. Some of the new caliber stuff may not even happen this year. It might land in 26. I'm going to bring, for the next 30 days, I'm going to obsessively dive into some of the load development that'll come on board with the new machinery. I'm going to further dive into development and work out as many kinks. I'm going to focus more on some of the new packaging, the design stuff, some of the stuff that I'll obsess for days on end about, so I don't get angry and rage punch, drink a Monster Energy, change my name to Kyle, and run through some drywall. I'm trying to avoid doing that by just getting focused on the work. So I got to make up a month of lost time is the way my brain's working right now. Yeah, that's that fun update.
Fun times. Being a business owner.
That's the way it goes.
It is.
No plan. I'm persistent, though. It will happen. It'll be fine. In the grand scheme of the decades and decades we're going to spend building this business, 1 month's not going to end us. It's just going to piss me off.
Yeah. Well, sometimes that energy creates more growth in the
Yeah.
long run.
Well, and for the podcast too. So we started this strategically to get, 8 or so episodes of Q&A and kind of get the beak wet. The new facilities also has a studio that's being built for the podcast and for our YouTube channel to drastically grow, to do a lot more educational content. So now I'm like, crap, we got to fit in 4 more Q&As. And not to say these are boring, but by July, our plan was to pivot into the studio and have a lot more growth on the YouTube channel on the marketing side. So it's changing a lot of your plan. You just have to stand here and stare at me. Well, not sit here and stare at me face to face with these Q&A and simple stuff. So for you audio listeners, it won't change a whole lot. But for you guys watching on YouTube, you're just going to watch this format for another month.
It'll be okay.
Yeah, it'll be all right. I don't like being told no. I'm sorry. I'm spoiled.
He's still having a tantrum. Okay?
I'm having a tantrum. I'm not spoiled. I spoil myself by executing on everything and holding everyone around me to my standard so I get what I want. And you know that. You're married to me. Mm-hmm. When it's out of my control, I don't do well with things not happening to where, yeah, it's a problem. The city is about to get a big problem for not signing off on permits and delaying this.
Yeah. I think more of it is that was a reward. So like we've been pushing
it's
pretty
the middle
hard.
of fucking summer.
And
it's
then we're like,
120.
man, that's the reward. Like we're excited to move, build new spaces, do all these things.
Staff.
The staff's excited. Everybody's pumped. And then it's like, meh.
They're out there in a sweatshop right now.
Yeah.
They've only got like 2 swamp coolers because I had to steal all their power for equipment. And they're like, oh, sweet. It's 120, but we'll be in a new facility that's brand new. It'll be kept 80 degrees. And so July, August, September, we won't die. Well, now they're like, crap, we got another whole month of, I'm getting more floor swampers and it's been keeping cool in there. OSHA, don't come get me.
Yeah.
We're okay.
It hasn't been too bad outside. I think it's only been like 95. It's been in the 90s, not the 110s. So
Last
that
week
helps
it
a lot.
was. I just went home early every day so I didn't have to deal with it.
Wow.
I'm just kidding. But
Wow.
not really. Okay.
Anyways.
So what's today?
Okay. First question. So we have 3 questions for you. First one is a product question. Why would you shoot 300 Blackout subsonic 200 grain instead of the 150 grain?
The 150 Super.
Yeah.
So the 200 grain, right now, the offering that we have is a 200 grain FMJ subsonic 300 Blackout. It's just way more popular than supersonic. Most people shooting 300 Blackout platforms are also looking at suppressing. So when we put both loads out, I think it sold like 50 to 1, 200 grain over the 150 grain, no matter what the price was, because that community is bigger into suppressor use. As far as performance-wise, it's just application-based. So if the 150 is a supersonic, so you get the sonic crack. So if you're shooting suppressed, it's not as beneficial. It's more of an affordable, like, plinking option. But we do see majority, not to crap on a product, but everyone's buying the 200 grain. All the dealers, all the direct-to-consumer. The 200 grain, it's going 1050 out of a 16-inch. We use a certain powder that has a good burn rate, so when you're dropping down into a shorter barrel, you're still maintaining velocity for reliable cyclone feeding. And that's some of the nerd stuff behind the scenes in testing. 300 Blackout, you can use a bunch of different powders. And we specifically selected one, I'm not going to tell what it is, with a certain primer to get the burn. So when someone runs like a 7.5 inch and they don't understand twist rate because they just chopped a barrel and they don't have good enough stability, that we're getting enough burn to push that bullet to have reliable function. But even on a 16-inch barrel, it is still subsonic and extremely quiet, but it cycles. A lot of the competitors, they don't get into the nerd science of powder burn rates, primer, all that relationship due to the bullet with a specific bullet, the friction resistance of a bullet down a barrel based on rifling, twist rate, and cut, and pressures. We do, so we get reliable function cycling across almost all the platforms. Some of them, if you don't have an adjustable gas system, like if you're running like a super shorty and you don't understand gas systems, you're running a short length or mid-length gas and you're not knowing how to open it up or adjust it, nothing's going to run once you go subsonic. So a lot of it is the customer. understanding that with their setups. But I feel that we optimized the powder with the burn rate, with the primer, with the type of brass, and the projectile with the hardness of the projectile, for stability, for as much accuracy as you can get in a 300, so we can have reliable function in cycling. So, yeah, it's a good choice. There's plenty of content of people shooting it. I mean, I shoot that when we did development. Like, I like to test stuff through full autos too. We test through a bunch of different stuff. So, like, I have an SBR, an integrally suppressed full auto SBR, and it fed like a dream nonstop. And it's like a typewriter. It just so quiet, no ears required, just stupid silent. And you could probably find that on YouTube.
Yeah, I think that's
or
on
social.
Instagram. Yeah.
There's some shorts of that gun and that setup going. But yeah, it's a great load. When we get into our new facility, we'll be expanding on that line. We've developed a defensive option, but we're waiting on some of our Swiss machinery, which now is pushed back to August. There will be a counterpart Hush Puppy 200 grain-ish solid copper crazy defensive option that we've developed. We just are waiting. That will be coming. So that's one leak of a new product. But basically, I like train, compete, defend, and on some of it, if it's not a competition, I like train, defend. So we try to match our defense to our training, so people can buy, the FMJ variant. It's going to feed, cycle, same velocity, similar point of impact, as much as we can do with bullet technology, and then they can buy the defensive stuff for home defense, vehicle defense, whatever they're doing, and not have to adjust their dope on their rifles. Have same feel, cycle, speed, SDs, basically everything kept the same. It gets challenging with solid copper because it's 30% longer, more bearing surface, but we've got it pretty well figured out to where, especially on a 300 platform, out to even a couple hundred yards, your point of aim and impact shift is minimal, but you're getting extreme terminal ballistic. So when that load is final developed and drops, we'll do a great YouTube video in our new studio explaining it, showing it, gel testing it, and demonstrating it. But it's a match set to the 200 grain. And you'll see a lot more of that kind of stuff as we get into the new space and can further expand. That'll be a lot of the expansion, a lot of the lines and the new calibers. You'll see that. You'll start to see some of the match grade precision PRS stuff and a counter variant for defense and hunting, potentially. We're working on all that, not to leak too much. But that's why I'm mad, because I'm excited.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, let's go, amped, things are working out, we're getting in this. I'm geeking about that stuff because that's what gets me going and that's what I live for, and I can't do it for another month. So
Salty.
Yeah.
A little bit salty.
Yep.
All right. Well, I think that I like giving our listeners the secret sauce, because that should be the benefit of listening to these podcasts. Like a little bit of the what's coming up.
It's behind the veil.
Yeah, you get little tidbits because people always want to know, what's the next this? What's the next that? Well, listen to the podcast. You'll figure it out. All right. So next question is about pressure testing. So this person submitted, I would love to learn more about pressure testing and what your process is.
So how deep do we want to go on this due to time and shit timing out?
And once again, we'll get deeper in this at the new space.
Yeah, well, no, we'll do some videos actually showing the pressure testing system. So with pressure testing, the importance of it specifically is heavily on the defensive stuff where you're pushing pressures. So I'll just to understand pressure testing, you have to understand where it came from, why it's important, a little bit about it, and then I'll get into the detailed stuff. So if you hear anyone say SAMI, so SAMI is the body governing board of specifications for everything from gun chambers to cartridges, all the detailed spec of chambers, cartridges, but also ammunition. So basically, SAMI governs and monitors and lays out specifications. So if you're building a gun, your chamber is to spec, so the ammunition manufacturer can manufacture the ammunition to spec. Everything has a plus minus. So we know, hey, we're making this in spec, and if everyone's building their guns within spec, this ammunition will work. Do all gun manufacturers do that? Absolutely not. A lot of the new 2011 builders do not understand that apparently and don't know how to measure chambers. I want to get into that. But there is a spec that we need to follow. We have to keep all of our ammunition within spec with SAMI. Part of SAMI is pressure. So understanding pressures of maximum pressure that a cartridge, the case can handle safely. So SAMI as an organization, what they do is they have a group of companies that are members, and that costs a lot of money to be a member. You have to be invited to be a member by 3 other SAMI members have to invite you in. Like, it's a very exclusive group, but most of the top manufacturers are all members of SAMI. And what they do when a cartridge is developed, a cartridge cannot become a SAMI cartridge if it's not introduced by one of the member companies. And outside, so say if I develop a brand new cartridge and I'm not a member of SAMI, I can get one of, Federal or someone who is part of SAMI to introduce that cartridge. A good one would be 300 Blackout. We just talked about that. Remington did not develop 300 Blackout. It used to be called 300 Whisper. But Remington introduced it to SAMI, and that's where the specifications come from. So for the longest time, there was no specs on it. On pressure testing, then what they do is they develop the ammunition, and within their pressure testing systems, we do what's called a round robin. So they develop like proof loads, test loads that then get passed across all the members, and they all do their individual testing, and then it's a reference load. They all then come up with an average, and that's where they establish pressures, because from one gun to another, you're going to have some variation. So the reference load, whoever introduces it, they load it to the tightest tolerances perfect they can, then it gets passed around, and everyone pressures it in their systems. They build an average, and that's where if you look at SAMI specifications and pressures, that's where you'll see if it's like a standard pressure and then a plus P pressure, there's different pressure ratings. So it's PSI, pounds per square inch. So like 223 would be like 55,000 PSI. 9 millimeter would be 35,000 PSI. Plus P would be 38.5, I believe, 37.5, 38.5. So that's your pressure. So as an ammunition manufacturer, when we go to develop a load, especially on like the solid copper defensive line, we need to be in the upper end of the pressure so we can get the maximum performance, velocity, terminal ballistics out of it. But we don't want to blow guns up. So chambers are rated. So SAMI's rating the chamber spec and everything and the ammunition. So as long as we develop our ammunition within pressure for SAMI, the guns, if they're built within SAMI spec, they're not going to blow up. You can all think of the name that I'm thinking out loud that starts with an S where everything's been blowing up lately. But understand if the ammunition is in spec to pressure and that gun blows up, I mean, there's a lot of variables in a blown up gun. But that's kind of, it keeps everyone in balance from going wild, wild west. Supervel is known as the Wild Wild West. If you look at the history of Supervel, that said F you to SAMI in the very beginning. I mean, Supervel invented the jacketed hollow point and did not care about SAMI and exposed it. That's where Plus P came from, because Supervel pushed the JHP way over SAMI's pressures. And then Plus P came around because all the big dogs couldn't compete with Supervel. Their new design of bullets with terminal ballistics that were going much faster. Then all of a sudden Plus P became introduced on 9 millimeter, 45, and some of the cartridges. But yeah, so the way we do it in-house, we have a full pressure testing system. There's a couple different methods. The old school method was called a copper crusher method, and that was like measuring distance of crushing. It's the cup method. And then there's like PSI, which is like using the piezo's transducer method, which is pretty much what everyone's doing now. And so what ends up happening is the brass, through like a hydraulic press system, is compressed, and then you have a transducer, which is connected to a ballistic computer that's measuring force and everything. And as that, every lot of brass needs their own offset. So say it's just 9 millimeter and it's put in this pressure barrel system with the transducer, and the system is applying 50,000 PSI. Let's just say 50. That's a random number. It's just a base benchmark number. And then they know it's exactly pushing that much pressure. Based on the reading and the flex and expansion of the brass, the transducer is picking up a reading. What is that difference? Is it reading 50,000 or is it reading 45,000? The difference in those two is your offset for that transducer for that specific lot of brass. So all the ammunition we pressure test, we have transducers per caliber, and then we have offsets per transducer per caliber. So when we put it into our final Oler pressure testing system that we're actually firing that loaded round through, we program that transducer and the offset into the ballistic computer to tell us when it's fired. We can measure the internal case pressure. Once we know the internal case pressure, we then can look at some trends within the spike due to burn rate, primer, everything that's causing it, pressure signs, and we get an accurate reading of what our pressure, final pressure is on the spike to make sure that we're within the pre-established SAMI pressure. Now, to go deeper into the nerd science of it, I mean, I could put a 9mm at 35 or 38.5 plus P pressure, and then I could change powders. And let's just say it hits 1,300 feet per second. And then I could change powders, and I could put that same 9mm at the same pressure, and I could hit relatively almost the same velocity. We're just saying perfect world. But the good understanding of the nerd side of pressure is, when does your pressure happen? How soon on your burn rate? Is it slamming into it past your lead into your rifling? Is it spiking early on? Is it a vertical spike with the drop off? So it's building pressure. So it's not just what your PSI, it's when you look at the graphs, when is that pressure spike? Is it a vertical spike that drops straight off, or better, is it ramped and coned off? So you can have a rated case of 5,000 PSI, but if you're spiking your rate out at the beginning and slamming it hard, that's going to change. And as an ammunition manufacturer, the difference of us understanding this stuff is when we set things as much as like our load length, our overall length, the bullet ogive, when it passes your free bore into the lead, into the rifling, that impact difference, we'd call it like your jump distance. Your jump distance from the cartridge impacting your rifling matters, especially on PRS and long range stuff. Handgun, it does, but there's so much variety in this. It gets a bit hard to match everyone. But we test across the board with all the calibers to set the optimal jump distance to determine our pressure spike in relation to the powder and primer that we use based on burn rate. To if we're hitting 38.5 plus P SAMI pressure, we're not hitting it right out the gate on the wall and creating a giant spike. We adjust our bullet overall length, bullet ogive, where it's contacting, the bullet jacket, the thickness, the lead composition, the thickness of the lead, the solid copper, the heat treat, and the hardness of the lead, the profile of the bullet, to get as much velocity, accuracy, performance with the terminal ballistics without blowing up a gun and maintaining pressure. This kind of stuff is the stuff that a lot of these companies that are thinking they're making difference of ammunition do not understand. They do not comprehend at the level this is a base level that I'm talking right now on this nerd stuff, but they're not doing this. The systems are hundreds of thousands of dollars, and every freaking one you got to buy a new, say Wiseman. We use Wiseman test barrels and program your transducers. It's a lot, and a lot of the companies, they just don't do that. And that's one of the separators for us is if we're going to manufacture defensive ammunition that's going to save a life, we're going to do all the testing and development because we don't want it to be the one that causes someone to lose a life or has a malfunction or doesn't perform. I mean, anyone can take a bullet and push it fast. But right now, with gun manufacturers and the crap that's being built, you can't risk it. Stuff falls apart. It can't handle the pressures. It's not worth the risk. So when you're buying defensive ammunition, understand these kind of things. Does that company ask them? Do you guys pressure test? Do you test? Do you understand pressures? Fire the round and look at it. Is your primer flattened? Is your primer pierced? How's your head stamp? What are the changes? Is it hard to extract due to the excessive expansion? I mean, there's simple pressure signs you can find, but when loading ammunition, if you guys are home loading, and we'll get way more into this with some of the component development we have coming, but you're not, like from JHP or, typical cup and core FMJ, lead, even a round nose bullet, it's not the same as solid copper. It's totally different. Solid copper is way more harder. It's monolithic. It's less dense. It's a lot longer, a lot more bearing surface. So it's not apples to apples. So most of the data out there in your Hornady reloading book on a 115 JHP does not even come close to a 115 solid copper bullet. So when you have companies like Sierra and Barnes that do mainly Barnes that does a lot of solid copper, if you look on their website, they give you all that data because they don't want you to blow your gun up. You're not going to take a 223 Or let's talk about 300 Blackout. They have a 120 grain TAC TX bullet. That's amazing. It's black tip. It's badass. Load a shit ton of it. That bullet is a solid copper bullet. Boat-tailed. They have a flat base variant. But if you took a counterpart, a 120 grain lead jacketed bullet, and you look at the powder throws for the same velocity, they're totally different. You cannot put 17 grains in a, say you're running like H110 or little gun. There's a bunch of powders you could use. Whatever you're using. Let's say you're running 17 grains on 120 grain through a 16-inch barrel and you're trying to hit 2150. Now, if you put and you change your powder, there's variance your overall length, there's variance your jump distance to rifling, that's going to play with pressure. But the reality is, if I just looked at that same bullet weight for an FMJ or a jacketed bullet that's not solid copper and I threw that, your pressure is going to be 10 to 15,000 PSI higher. And you're going to have a massive pressure signs, and then that's when you risk blowing stuff up. So people who are home loading, they don't have pressure. They don't have all this stuff I'm talking about. The data does not cross over from solid copper to your lead projectiles. Lead is much softer. What is your sizing? What is the forming of the bullet? What is the profile of the bullet? What is the ogive? How does it contact the rifling? There's a lot to pressure testing, but back to the question, what we do is any load that we develop, we pressure test. And we pressure test constantly. We have a range within our facility. We're chronographing daily. We're pressure testing daily. Any development of any defensive anything, we do it. We want to achieve terminal ballistics, but we start with pressure. And we want to hit the correct pressure, and the velocity is what it is. And we want to manipulate. We have a velocity we want to hit, but we can control the variables. So we want to manipulate and design that bullet to reach its expansion and its performance within a certain range of velocity through a variety of different guns. We accomplish that by first starting with pressure. Let's put this at, so say our 9mm 115 grain solid copper. We want that bullet to expand, just like all of our solid copper. If you watch the high-speed footage, all of them, 100% expansion within a half an inch of penetration on soft target. We want all of them to do that. We want all of them that bullet to travel from that half inch all the way to 16 to 18 inches with 100% expansion, double caliber expansion. These are all of SuperVel's like promises and like our baseline standards. So we want 100% expansion, double caliber expansion, 100% weight retention within half inch of soft tissue, even after punching through barrier. We want it to maintain that from that half inch out to 16 to 18 inches, and we want it to pass the FBI standard, which it does. A massive permanent and temporary wound cavity because it's dumping all that energy right away. We start with pressure. We achieve pressure. We can manipulate the bullet design and the manufacturing process to achieve that based on that pressure and that velocity, but all of it starts with pressure. If we're not hitting that velocity of performance and we cannot manipulate the bullet design to do that or achieve the velocity to do that, then we chase the performance of the powder. We look at that pressure spike. So the 300 Blackout, the one I just talked to you about, between powders and in testing, I'll tell you on that bullet that I mentioned about Barnes, between the common 300 Blackout powder, you can maintain the exact same pressure, say 55,000 PSI, and have up to 200 feet per second swing with the same primer just by changing your powder due to burn rate and the speed it is burning. You're running a faster burn, you're not going to get the velocity, you're going to spike pressure right out the gate. It's solid copper, it has more bearing surface. You don't need a spike, you need to push that. You need a more rounded off pressure curve. All this nerd science stuff that a lot of you guys probably don't realize that this is what I obsess about. But when we get into the new facility, I'll show a lot of this stuff for the new studio and stuff is to show you guys a little bit more behind the scenes on and bring you into some of the testing stuff. So you guys understand the difference between SuperVel and everybody else. And that you guys understand if I'm telling you this, I have the data on all of it. And if I mess it up, I'll expose it myself because we're transparent and I'll correct it and make it right. That's why we refund, replace, repair, whatever, because we do obsessively all of this stuff out the gate in the beginning, no matter the load, from ball ammo to premium defensive ammo. That's the importance of pressure testing. All the companies you guys are buying ammunition from, all you competitors that are buying all this coated crap and all this, go ask them. If you're buying defensive ammunition, are you pressure testing? Can you share that data? I will gladly send you all my data. I might block out the components I'm using because I don't want my stuff stolen, but if they're not doing that, are you going to trust your life to that round? That's the way I put it. You're paying a premium price for a premium product because it's defensive. The only way to do defensive ammunition is premium. The only way to do match ammunition is premium. There's no like cheap reman in that. It's premium components. It costs a lot more to do. You're doing it the right way. Hopefully you're making it in America, but hopefully you're testing it. Hopefully the owner of the company, like me, maybe isn't as triggered in as I am. You name a load, I can tell you its pressure, its overall length, the bullet use, the brass use, the powder throw, all the details of every single load that we manufacture, which there's probably 20 that you guys don't see as consumers that we manufacture for other things. It's that level of focus. Someone within those companies need to have it. If they're not, that's why crap keeps happening. That's why all this, issues, and that's probably why that question came about. So
Probably. Question we always get: can you make 9mm major? I feel like this falls into that. Like,
Yeah.
no, this is why.
So 9 major, man, I got tempted. Very close. I have the packaging for it. I have the projectiles for it. I have everything to do it. I have the machinery. I have all the stuff to do it. When it comes to insurances, as the company's grown, we have product liability, general liability, all of our liability insurances. By us adhering to SAMI specifications and being part of organization, it saves us a lot of money, even though we spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on insurance annually. It saves us money on it. And we adhere to that it's like the DOT for vehicles. Like, we adhere to these guidelines. We show to our insurance providers that we do this testing. We pressure test, we function test, we destructive test. We do all of this testing on our munitions. 9 major is not a SAMI cartridge. If you shoot 9 major, no matter who makes the open gun, at some point in its life, it's going to blow up. That's the reality. That case is rated for 38,500. In all of my testing, I've never found a 9 major load that is below 55,000 PSI.
Jeez.
So you're putting 20,000 PSI over its maximum acceptable. It's going to blow up at time. And then you got idiots out there shooting open that are picking up and reloading. They're picking range brass up and reloading 9 major into it and not understanding. I've pressure tested quite a few competitors from being a USPSA IPSC shooter. They're like, oh, I'm hand loading on my Dillon for my 9 major. And I'm worried about pressure because I'm getting pressure signs. If you shoot 9 major, you better be listening to everything I just said and understand it and what to look at. You don't have to have a pressure testing system to hand me a piece of brass and I can tell you with a set of calipers, dimensional expansion based on the measurement of your chambers, what's happening with your pressure based on wear signs, extractor groove wear signs, and a lot of things, what you're doing to your gun and how you're beating the hell out of your gun. And in time, that case is going to give out and you're going to have a grenade in your hand. And that's what 9 major really is. If you're going to shoot open, shoot 38 Super Comp. That case is actually rated to handle that pressure. You have more case volume. You have a lot more range of powders you can use due to the volume on the case. And you can still hit, most guys are running 124 grain JHP. They're trying to hit 1,350 range feet per second, somewhere in there, so they can be like 170 power factor. So they can qualify for the matches and not go go into minor. They're hitting major power factor, which is 165 in USPSA. So they want to be like 170 to 173. To hit that, it cannot be done with 9 major and not be over pressure. So Supervel does not do 9 major, even though I bought all the packaging and spent a lot of money on it because I, at one point, was going to figure it out. And I was close, but then all those powders are no longer manufactured. So that's why I stopped, because we got close and we thought we had it developed. And then the powder supply, they literally discontinued the powders that were doable. So don't ask me about that because they don't exist. So that's why 9 major. It's an insurance thing. It's a liability thing. And the reality is it's not safe to do. And whenever someone blows a gun up, they don't blame the gun. They blame the ammo.
Yeah.
10 times out of 10. So it ain't happening. Sorry. And if you're cheap and want to shoot 9 major because you don't want to buy 38 Super Comp, don't shoot open division. That's how I feel. Go shoot PCC. Go shoot carry optics. Shoot limited optics where you don't have to shoot 9 major. You can buy 9 Myonair ammo. You don't have to load it. I can sell it to you cheaper than you can load it. You don't have to worry about pressure. You don't have to worry about any of that stuff. Open's cool. You're buying an $8,000 gun. Buy some Starline 38 Super Comp. Buy a 38 Super Comp gun and load it, or buy from a company that does 38 Super Comp.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's a little aggressive.
No, I feel like shooting.
I spent a lot of time in that part of the sports when I was with Atlas.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, you'll see Atlas, they'll quit making open guns because of this BS. Because shooter, it's doesn't matter how amazing they can make a gun. Same thing with Infinity, Limcat, all of them. They can all make guns amazing. But when you got dickheads hand loading in a garage that don't understand ballistics at all, and they're just picking a powder, and they don't understand burn rates, and they don't understand the difference in the primers they're using and the cup thickness, and they're loading something to 60. I've tested dudes' ammo that was 65,000, 70,000 PSI, and they're shooting it. Now these gun builders have to build these guns to handle that amount of pressure. Those guns are coming apart. They're not lasting 100,000 rounds. Now, if someone knows how to load and they're doing it the right way and getting it in the low 50s, like I've been with team guys with Atlas that had over 100,000 their guns because they held up because they're built amazing. But all it takes is one dude not understanding these variables and not understanding how to test them. The gun's going to blow up. I don't care how good you build the gun. And that's why a lot of these gun builders do not want to build a 9 major gun because it's stupid. It's a grenade. It's going to blow up. They're going to have to warranty it. Like Atlas has an amazing warranty. They'll warranty everything. But then when you get some Yahoo on a, Dylan not understanding how to load, blowing a gun up, that's not their fault. Sorry again.
Mic drop.
No, it's just, I don't know. I get it. A lot of people in the sports, it's very me too. They're like, I want to shoot open. And then they see the price at 38 Super Comp, and then they see the price at 9, and they're like, wow, I'm just going to shoot this.
Let's go.
But then I'm going to go pick it up out of the range off the ground and reload it and see what happens. Okay, good luck.
Yeah.
Good luck having a grenade go off in your hand at some point. Not if, it's when it will happen.
Well, hopefully 9 major will just phase out if gun makers aren't going to be continuing.
There's still so many custom builders that just focus on, that do a lot of open guns. But open divisions, it's not, I would say it's dying a little bit. Limited optics has taken carry optics took a lot of traffic, but once limited optics came on scene where you could shoot a 2011 with a dot in minor, it killed limited division, and it pulled a lot of open shooters because open shooters like to shoot 2011. So like I love the 2011 platform, so that's why I competed in limited for so many years, and I shot 40 major. That's why. Once limited optics came and I could shoot minor, everyone quit. I quit shooting 40, quit loading it, sold a bunch of the guns. Same thing's happening in open, is to where now the purest open shooters, a lot of them are still just shooting 38 Super Comp, and the ones who are shooting 9 major are like, thank God there's an option where I can go shoot, my open style platform with minor ammo and not have to deal with it.
Yeah, for sure. All right, ready for the last question? It's a personal one.
Oh, lovely. Haven't I been personal enough today? Not really.
This one's inspired by not wearing a hat. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
All right. So
by the glare.
All right, here we go. Being a leader and entrepreneur requires making difficult decisions. How do you develop effective decision-making skills?
So how would like an individual develop effective decision-making skills?
Like
how did I? Or
how did you?
I don't know if mine are effective. I try.
Well, okay, so say anybody listening out there that struggles with that, like what advice would you give them to try to develop their decision-making skills?
Well, first, there's a variety of decisions within business. Like there's decisions with people and handling people and getting people, getting them to do what you need to. There's decisions on finance. There's decisions on systems, your SOPs, your structure. There's a lot of things with decision-making. But one thing that I can tell people that has separated me and allowed me to do the things that I've been to do is I'm pretty decisive and I don't wait around. Sometimes I think that the biggest challenge with a new leader or someone who has say on a decision is I don't want to say the P word on here, but they're weak in that sense to where they can't decide. And oftentimes indecisions is worse than the wrong decisions. You have to just sometimes act. Now, one thing I like to say is ignorance. Lack of knowledge and ignorance is weakness, and that's where risk is seen. So oftentimes when someone can't make a decision, it's because they're not educated enough to make that decision. They haven't done the homework to understand the problem to decide about. They're ignorant in that. They don't have the repetitions, and they haven't built the perspective. So when a decision comes up, if you've never done it before, you have to be this obsessive brain and mind as a business owner or leader who's making decisions to whiteboard it, pros and cons, and then you just have to decide. You can't extend that out too long. You have to set a timeline. So sometimes with new decisions, you'll hear me say this, like I have to decide, and I'll set like a time or a date. And by that point, I force myself to make that decision. Because sometimes it's like there are decisions where there's no right or wrong because it's so new. It's like, well, crap, I don't know what's going to happen. You got to weigh it all out, and then you just have to decide. The worst is just being indecisive. like in management and within our team, I respect and promote the person who just makes a decision. I don't respect and promote the person who thinks about it for 2 months and then can't decide. Because the person who makes the decision made the decision, even if it was wrong, they learned from it, and then they immediately made the correct decision based on the knowledge they gained from the incorrect decision that exposed the truth of the decision they were making. The person who just sits on it and doesn't act is not going to go anywhere. Because then some of the decisions, like, there's just not the knowledge to be gained until you actually make the decision and gain the perspective. So if you struggle in your, I say pansy in that situation, on making those decisions, just act and gather as much knowledge, take as much notes, because you gain perspective. So like the best thing I've learned in business is, like, I love failure. I love it because that's where my biggest growth comes from. I will induce hard, dumb shit just so I can fail, so I can gain perspective, take more notes, better myself, and be more decisive in my decision making in the future and make better decisions. So think of decisions, if you're worried about failing, think of it as this is a learning opportunity. You mitigate as much risk as you can by gaining as much knowledge as you can. And then you decide, and you immediately, once you decide, you immediately take action. You don't dwell. You don't, let me make a decision and wait till we can know. When you make that decision, right after you hit send in your brain or whatever you're doing, you take action right after decision. So you can start the learning process, and the sooner you can expose that it was the wrong decision, the sooner you can pivot, reassess, and get back on track, which is the second part of decision making, is analysis. You've made the decision. Don't just make the decision and leave the room. Like, if you're telling your team to a new decision that hasn't been done, it's your job to follow up. You make that decision and give them the command for that mission to go do that, and then you immediately monitor it. So that way, if it was the wrong decision, before it creates too much chaos, you can go out humbly with no ego and say, I made the wrong decision. We need to change this. And that's a big thing I do, and I think that's why our team respects me, is I will be the first person to tell you I messed up, because I'm introspectively constantly evaluating the decisions that I've made. So I'm the type where I take the action and do the guessing after. I don't guess and then wait and never take action. I take action and then I monitor it. Like, if I'm going to have self-doubt and guessing, it's after the action's in rolling, because then I'm gaining immediate feedback on how I can better this decision or pivot this decision in the right direction. So for me, I focused on that. I play with ultra aggression. I make mistakes all the time, but I mitigate my risk by becoming obsessive with the knowledge path within the things we do. And I rarely, if ever, do make the same decision or the same mistake twice. And that's the big thing in success. It's like, you just have to show up, work hard, do the same thing over and over every single day, be as obsessive and focused as you possibly can, be decisive in your decision making, but learn from your mistakes and do not repeat them. And if you do that on rinse and repeat, you will be successful. It's as simple as that. So for those of you who are out there who can't make a decision, even if you wait a month, you're probably still going to make the wrong decision on some of this crap. So just make the decision and take action, and don't walk away from it. Face it like a man or a powerful woman. Make this decision and immediately face your decision to get that important feedback. With development, so people who do really well at this are companies or leaders in companies that geek out on product development, because they're always seeking feedback on innovation. So when you design something, you don't just be like, hey, I'm going to make this, do this, walk away and not test it. You say, I think this is how we're going to do this. I'm going to make a decision. We're going to go this route. We make it that way. And then we use all our testing tools immediately after to monitor that decision. And then we go, oh, crap, that was a bad decision. Let's pivot here, 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 and adjust this and make it perfect. So the stuff we started this episode with talking about, like pressure testing and load development, that's how my brain works. So I'm a decent decision maker. The people in our company and our team that I want making decision, if they don't have that brain, they're not going to be allowed to make decisions, because it's not about just making the decision. It's also about the feedback loop to better that decision for the future, to allow yourself to really dial in, to micro tune it. I've made decisions that come off as one way, and I monitor it, and it was good. It did what it accomplished, and everyone's like, man, that was awesome, great decision. And I'm like, yeah, I fell short here, 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 here. So when I make this decision to do this again, it's going to be 10 times better. So even if you feel like it's right, it could always be better. All that self-doubt and analysis you're doing in the front end, make the decision and then monitor and make all that in the back end. So you gain perspective. So the next time, ignorance, right, is what is like the disguise of risk. You mitigate your ignorance, your lack of knowledge. It makes the decision more decisive. You've gained perspective, and then you become a better decision maker. And it really comes down to reps. And a new business owner, entrepreneur, or new into leadership, you're going to make mistakes. And before I owned companies now for 17 years, and even within that, I worked for other people as I've owned companies. And I was posed with a lot of very hard decisions throughout my career in construction and other things that I did while I was also owning and running businesses. But that was very valuable to be an entrepreneur within these companies. And what will not get you fired? A lot of people are afraid to make a decision if you work within a company because they're worried they're going to get fired. If you make a bad decision and you don't own it, core value number 1, extreme ownership. If you make a bad decision and you just put it out there, and this is my decision, you're a management, and you dump it on your team and you walk away and that thing falls apart, you are going to get fired. But I've done this. I've made a decision and I couldn't decide which one was worse, and I picked the better of them and they both felt wrong to me. But then I immediately come with follow-up, and I immediately monitor it. And so your superiors are seeing you're monitoring your decisions, you're giving it your best, you're not sabotaging, and then you're in a place to quickly pivot if you need to and recourse that decision-making. The superiors understand that. It's like, oh, he's literally giving it all and full-heartedly is trying to make the best decision. So there's really no risk not to just decide. You just have to, one of those things you have to do it, but don't hide from it. Follow it up after. So that's decision-making and the method that I use.
All right. Well, that's it.
All right, everyone. Thank you for joining us on Behind the Veil. We have a lot more coming. Obviously, a lot of things are changing with us. We're going to continue to work and grow. If you guys want to submit user-submitted questions, go to supervallammunition.com, click podcast tab, insert your questions there. You can send them a DM. Taylor will put stuff out on social media. You can always reply with your questions there. Anything about guns, ammo, gear, personal life, business life, whatever you guys want to know, you can tell we're pretty open to discussing. So have a great day.